Welcome, everybody. And Cheri. Thanks.
Hi.
Thanks for joining back in with us. Episode 24, Watchwomen for God, Overcoming Evil with Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is a good one. I think it kind of, you know, forgiveness. We started out a couple of weeks ago with like forgiveness and sort of kind of merging along that like path to where like how do you do like forgiveness, especially if like you're experiencing or you're seeing evil in the world and stuff like that, because how can you really forgive unless we can overcome it.
Two of the hardest things in the world to do.
Yeah, I know to sincerely in our heart,
Yeah.
you know
And then
yeah,
and
and then
two
overcome it.
repay like they do. You're right. They go hand in hand. And
Yeah.
it's extremely difficult because of our human nature. We want to take vengeance upon ourselves and we want that immediate revenge, and that's just not what the Bible calls us to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think one of the most important things in life lessons sort of that I have learned, particularly most recently, when you say like, we want like the vengeance or something, is it you always hear, and we'll talk about it, like, here it is in Romans 12, about vengeance being the Lord's. But for me, I really had to humble myself to say, it's not just the vengeance after the fact that's the Lord's, it's also the justice that is the Lord's. So
yeah.
it's not Jennifer's justice. I think I've said this before. It's not my justice that I'm out there looking for. It's God's justice. He's the one that is just. He is the one that, you know, holds the line on all of these things. Like, it's not about my justice. It's about God is going to take care of His justice. That is the
Yeah.
assurance. That is the guarantee.
And that is, I mean, giving it up, and it is. I mean, it's swallowing your pride and realizing that it's not your decision. It is not your responsibility to to enact that justice. Like you are not the one to bring justice. You can, you know, stop the immediate action, but at what happens you cannot control. That's all God, and that's trusting in God and having faith in God that he will bring the situation to justice. He will, like, says, vengeance is mine, I will repay.
Yeah.
So you give it up to him, and you do that because otherwise you're doing evil as well, and you're repaying evil with evil, and
Yeah.
that doesn't get rid of evil. It just makes evil persist
Exactly, which is sometimes I think what the devil
in
wants more than
the world.
anything. Let's just like make sure that like we're clear, because I know we share the same belief. When we're talking about these kinds of things, we are certainly in no way, shape, or form saying, that here on this earth that there is no justice through the laws. That if somebody is like abusing you, or that you're in a unsafe situation, that you have to try to be good to somebody in that moment, like you said,
Oh,
like Cheri,
yeah.
about defending yourself. We don't want anybody to take that idea that that's what we're advocating. You most especially have the rights to like call in the authorities,
Oh,
call in
yeah.
the appropriate things.
Know
So
your
that's
thing.
not what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
defend yourself to the fullest. Defend yourself until you are safe, or until, if you're defending somebody else, until they are safe.
Yeah.
And then once you are in a safe situation, that's when you have to
A
give it
lot of
up
this stuff kicks in.
to God. Right. Right.
So go ahead. You want to read for us Romans 12? I think you were saying 17 to 21.
Yeah. I mean, if we had time, we could really read the whole chapter. But
I know.
I think the most powerful, the most profound, impactful is 17 through 20, which is repay no one evil for evil. have regard for good things in the sight of all men. If it is possible, as much depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing so, you will heap coals of fire on his head. And I love that because it's basically, you know, counterintuitive, so to speak, because if your enemy, the person who's doing evil or speaking evil about you, saying bad things about you, persecuting you, um, they are going to expect you to come back at them in the same way. They're going to expect
Give
you
as
to
good as
challenge
you
them.
get.
They're going to expect you to, start spreading rumors about them. They're going to
Yeah.
expect you to, say mean things about them.
Defend yourself to that.
Yeah, but what's the best way to defend yourself
Mm.
to that is be good, just shrug it off like it doesn't even matter. Be nice to them, be cordial to them. Certainly, you don't have to be friends with them, but yeah, like if they're, thirsty, so to speak, give them a drink.
Mm.
Don't withhold from them. Don't be like, oh, you said you're thirsty. Well, here's a packet of salt. Dump this down your throat. But that's what they're expecting because that gives them reason to say, oh, hey, you're just like me, and yeah, I
Mm.
said this about you, but then you said this about me,
Mm-hmm.
and it continues. So how does that ever stop evil? It doesn't. It exacerbates it, keeps it
True.
going. But if you meet them at a level that they're not used to and you treat them with goodness and kindness, there's two things. One, they're not going to know what to say, they're not going to know how to react to it. And it might make them more mad. It might, heap coals of fire on their head because they have no idea how to respond to it. They only know how to respond to adversity.
Mm.
And
Chaos.
this is going to show them, yeah, chaos. They thrive on chaos. That's an awesome way to put it. When you respond to evil with evil, it does. It keeps chaos going.
Mm.
And how do you stop chaos is with goodness and calmness and rationalization and not getting angry and not lashing out. And it's the most difficult thing in the world to do. Like
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. I'm probably one of the most defensive people in the world. Like, I mean, and I mean, it's something that I have to work on. It's nothing that's easy to do. And like, I know Jenna will talk about too, it's a big heart change as well. Like, you can't just say the words
Mm.
and not mean them. Like, you really have to be at peace with doing good to these people and know and truly feel that it is the right thing in spite of what they've done to you. And the hope is that they'll see your goodness and then start to react in the same way and be like, wow, I treated them really badly and they were still good to me, and they didn't um try to do anything bad to me. And like, what is that? That's really nice. That's
Right.
And I mean, you practice it on simple levels too. Like
Spiritual jujitsu.
I was yeah, I was actually very proud. This is on a very, much more simple level. My daughter the other day, we were talking about tipping in restaurants, and me, her, and my husband were talking, and how they deserve to be tipped extremely well because they live on it, they're there, they're working hard, and Um, and we were like, yeah, you give them a really good tip, unless they're, extremely rude and to you and don't do that. And then, my daughter, she was like, well, if they're really rude, she's like, I'm gonna tip them more because, maybe they're just having a bad day, or maybe they need that, or,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to make them happy, and maybe that's why they're miserable. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right, you know? And it's just like it's in
It's right
but
here in the Bible.
it's in our nature to be like, if you're rude to me, if you do this to me, then I'm gonna withhold this from you.
Yeah.
Really, you know, the more you give, the more you're good to people, the more you're going to promote goodness in this world, you
Mm,
know?
that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. And as like Cheri was saying, like we both have our own sort of like unique experiences in particular about these areas. And for me, um, it is, I'll just, my story is that I'm going through a lot of like very tough times on an interpersonal level,
Hmm.
dealing with um, trying to process my parents' final affairs, and a lot of contention and tension and just ugliness between myself and my brother. And so I got this, what I felt was a very just kind of awful um, proposal. It was very personal. It attacked me. It was just a lot of things that didn't weren't constructive. And my it took me like at least a week to process what I had received in a way that I could actually feel like I had any like state of mind to be able to respond to that. But then also on top of that, like Cheri was just like talking like so much, like how do I get to the heart place posture of heart that I don't respond in kind? And that took me another, literally like another week to be able to do that. And like as I'm going through these weeks, it's like I can feel my heart is raging. I can feel like the anger, the hurt, the disappointment, betrayal, you name it, all of these things. But I just kept praying and praying to God and praying, like literally, like, praying for God to help me. And finally got to the place where I sent an email back that I believe was to what Cheri was saying, was like responding with goodness. And the moment that I sent that email, that took 2 weeks to be able to get to the place to actually send, I felt an enormous amount of peace just wash over me afterwards, that I had been able to send an email that was good in the face of what felt like being punched in the face, metaphorically, like spiritually, like speaking.
Yeah.
But the other thing, so for me, like the important point about that is we're not saying that that's something that it's like, okay, we say this, we see this word of God, and this is just how we're going to be. And then that's it, because that's not life. You know what I mean? Like, it took me time to process, literally took me time to process, had to sit in it, pray, and really work through to be able to get to a mind and heart space before I could actually do that genuinely. And then the other thing that came out of that for me, which I feel is like so important, is I can look at that and being able to do that and genuinely say, that was not me, the sinful person that would have wanted to respond. That was Christ in me that actually was able to be able to respond with that goodness. So the other thing that, in being able to respond to situations like that, so important to take your time. Don't let your impulsiveness like drive you, as Cheri was saying, to like return the evil for the evil. Give yourself whatever time you need to be able to do it. Pray, and then also to ask Jesus for help. Like Jesus, you need to be in me to do this. Like you need to be the one because I can't get from here to there in my own self. There's nothing in me except for Jesus. So that was like one of like, the most important experiences that I have most recently had. And like I said, the peace that came over me after being able to not respond the way that I was the what I was given to respond in goodness, there was a genuinely what felt like a divine peace after that came over me that I almost could just say I can let it go. I can let that go because I didn't, and I did the right thing. And the one last thing that I'll say is, I really like what you were saying about how um, they're not expecting that. They want the fight. A lot of people, like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people want the fight because the fight keeps it going. They're good in the chaos. The Bible verse, like, don't, throw your pearls before swine. Don't give what's holy to the dogs. Like, those are important boundaries that we need to set. But a lot of people want you to respond the way that they do so that they can say, look, you're just like me. And as Christians, as people that are set apart, that God calls us to be set apart, we cannot be like that. And people, like, not only does it, might you hope that it leads them to repent to God, but the other thing that it does do, no matter what, with evil, when you return it with goodness, the idea of dumping the coals on the fire of your head, it shuts it down. Like like your goodness literally shuts down that ability to be able to keep that fight going. So it's almost like a really big protective. And I'll just end to say, like, we talked about, like, Romans chapter 12. Go, like, I encourage everybody to read the first part, which just talks about, like,
Yeah.
presenting ourselves as a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. You're not even necessarily doing this. What I have to let go of for myself is that I'm doing this for, not to say I'm not doing this for the other person, but when I respond in goodness to evil, it is because I am a Christian obedient to God and Jesus. That's what actually matters, is that I'm walking faithfully in obedience to God and Jesus. Regardless, God's going to take care of the rest. He says it right there, So letting go of, like, how you're going to be able to influence that other person is also a very freeing thing. So that's my experience.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Like, and like you were saying too, like it's a matter of, like, we do. I mean, we have to give up our own pride. We have to be willing to do the work. Like you did. I mean, you realized, I can't do this on my own. Like, help
Yeah.
me. Jesus,
Yeah.
help me be more
Yeah.
like, help me be like you were that the night
Hanging on the
that
cross.
got arrested before he was crucified, and they were
Mm,
coming at him to arrest him.
mocking.
One of his disciples um, sliced off the guy's ear, and Jesus rebuked
Yeah.
him and then healed the guy's ear. I mean, that guy was going to attack Jesus. Someone stood up for him, which in human nature, seemingly is right. And Jesus is like,
Mm.
no, don't do that. Don't harm him. Don't. I mean,
Get behind
that's
me,
very
Satan.
difficult to do. Like, if someone were going to attack, Jen, I mean, what's my first instinct? I'm gonna try to get in there and stop them from doing it in any way that I can. And I think
Mm,
I I just think that it's a matter of praying for the
mm,
mind actions of Jesus to be in you. And what is it? It's Galatians 2:20 actually. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And the life I now live, I
Exactly.
live by faith in the one that loved me and gave himself for me. So you always
Yeah.
have that. Like, you always have the love of Christ. So when you are, not physically standing up for somebody, not verbally standing up for yourself or somebody else, and you're just kind of sitting back and you're taking it, and you know, um, that's going to be seen as weakness. But
Mm,
really, like the
yeah.
point is, who cares what
Okay.
man thinks? It's not, because
Right.
you know in the eyes of God that you're doing right. And like we're saying, we're
Right.
not saying to stand back and let people be hurt. And I mean, certainly say your piece and then move on. But
Hmm.
try not to do it in a way that demeans anybody or slanders anybody, or um, can
Right.
make you look as evil as them. And then the last thing I want to say is, pray for them. Pray for them. Pray for the evil to be removed from them. Pray for the evil thoughts that you're having towards them to be removed from you, like Jen did. And she said she's felt a peace, like she's never felt. And it's hard to do. It's hard to rid
Mm,
yourself of that. And even harder to rid somebody else of that, because you can pray. I mean, there are people that are possessed. There are people that are extremely, extremely mentally ill, that it's going to be difficult to reason with them, and they are in a sense not going to know right from wrong. So in that, when it says,
mm,
if it is possible, as much depends on you, live peaceably with all men. I mean, do what you can do to live peacefully. Some people will receive it, some people won't. But that's not on you. That's on
that's
God.
on God.
And that's a spiritual battle that, all you can do is pray against it, pray against the demons,
Yeah.
pray against the evil, pray for the blood of Christ to
Hmm.
wash them away. And that's where we stand. But we always have prayer to go to. We always have the love of Jesus in us and guiding us, and we just have to follow that
Right.
guidance and go against our
Yeah.
human nature, so to speak, to be
Hard. It's
better,
hard.
people.
Hard, especially when it's so personal. Well,
Yeah.
especially when it feels so personal. It's really, really hard. Um, you know, but more and more, I fear, and this is all over the Bible. Maybe we could talk about this sort of next time, like fear of God. I don't know if we've talked about that
Yeah,
before,
no,
but
we have.
it really comes down to choosing about who I'm more afraid of. I'm more afraid of displeasing God. Not to say that, I mean, I am a child of God and all of those things, but in my mind, um, I'm more afraid of not being obedient to God than I am about um, whether or not I'm pleasing man. And so, in that sense, you know, my commitment to being good regardless of the circumstances. And James, if anybody wants to read about suffering and how to do that well, read the book of James, because it makes us
Mm,
more like Christ. So if you have to suffer something in this world, an offense, or Proverbs 19:11 says it's to the glory of the person who can overlook an offense. Those are the things that are pleasing to God, is that we are able to overlook these things. So I'm more concerned about my how I'm looking to God than I am necessarily how I'm looking to man. So that's just something to think about,
just
and
thought
maybe
you
we'll take
mentioned.
that one up next time. Fear of the God. That would see. Shari's already thinking about that. She's already on the fear of God.
It
Do you
was
want to close it? Did you find something you want to close us with?
yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
really.
Well, thanks.
It mentioned it was James 3:13-16, but it's, I mean,
What is it?
who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. So see, it does relate, because that's what we're saying. like have do good, but be meek. Like the meek shall inherit the earth, right? So that's going to be seen
Mm,
as, weakness among men, whereas you know, whereas if you immediately react and act your vengeance, that's going to be seen as the most appropriate response. If you don't respond like that, you know, in man's eyes, you're wussing out.
yeah,
You're being a wimp. But in God's eyes, you're not. You're being patient. You're being calm. You're choosing your battles. Like, who cares what this person said about you? Who cares what they think of you?
yeah,
If what they're saying isn't right, it isn't right. So just go and be yourself, and don't be angry about it. Don't let it bother you, because what
shake
they
it off.
think of you doesn't matter. All that matters
Yeah,
is what God thinks of you, and God knows you. He's the ultimate
yep.
judge.
And pray. Yeah, love it. Pray for them.
Yeah,
Pray for their souls. All
pray.
right. Well, good.
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Let us know what you think. Yeah, maybe next time we'll talk about fear of God. So if you have any
Mhm.
comments about that, we'd love to hear them. Share them, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
God bless.
Bye.